What is going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, March the 15th. Stoked to be here, fresh off of SmackDown. We have a wicked weekend of professional wrestling. We've had Maple Leaf Pro. We've had some TNA action. We had SmackDown last night. We've got Collision tonight. Woo! Is it Mania season? That was my best Ric Flair woo. I apologize. That actually felt a little bit flat, but thankfully I've got a couple of good friends riding with me today to help break down last night's SmackDown and everything else we've got going on. So let me introduce them to you. First and foremost, let me send this one. I'm going to keep it in the continental United States just for continuity's sake. Let me send this one out to Philadelphia to our head of opinions, Mr. Anthony Ricciardi. And I get that name right nowadays, unlike before. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good, Bo Jackson over there. It's always fun doing this. I watched Sacrifice last night with Clark. Honestly, side note, I know we don't really cover TNA, but if anybody wants to see a great match, Santana against Mustafa Ali from last night's Sacrifice show was phenomenal. But we're going to be talking about SmackDown, and there's a lot to uncover here, so I am looking forward to it. Let's have some fun.
No doubt about it. I am excited about it as well. But not only am I excited about it, I have got to talk to one more guest that we've got here. It's not even really a guest. It's a co-host across the pond. My partner in crime when it comes to team, John Cena is right. Mr. Jordy in the bank himself is in the building. Sweatbands off. Let's go, my friend. How are you? Happy Saturday.
Woo! There we go. I'll
now we're talking.
Yeah, now we're talking. No, yeah, I'm good. Like I said, we've had another great show. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here because I don't turn up for mediocrity anymore. Not now. I'm Hollywood Jordy. John Cena has shown me the way. Speaking of which, I need to speak to Ben Allison, El Jefe, for some room in the budget because my Jordy in the bank briefcase is looking a bit worse for wear. I'm not paying for that myself, just to make that clear. So yeah. I need to send in an expense for that. Look at it. This is not good enough.
Don't you worry, Jordy. We'll send that right up the chain of command. Being the Cody Crybaby is no guarantees, but I assure you we've got it in the budget to get that fixed.
Maybe if I cry
and we will work that out in due time without question. We've got a ton of comments out of the gates. Fernando Zayas, monster shout out, friend of the show with Greetings Republic crew. What is going on? He said, congratulations to the Street Profits once again becoming the tag team champions. Yes, we will get to that, I assure you, in that main event segment. We've got also Anu. Yes, I love that. We've got monster shout out Chaos here. We've got Ali Santana was the best match of the weekend, I would assume you're saying, and
or of last night.
It's up there.
Yeah,
I would agree. And then, of course, Sean, aloha, my friend. Good to have you as always. Let's talk about Charlotte Flair. Gets in the ring, picks up a victory pretty early, but then the Tiffany Stratton feud heats up. We have the beatdown after the match, or not really the beatdown, the brawl, whatever it was, skirmish. I don't know. Whichever adjective you prefer in this scenario. I enjoyed this. I'm enjoying this rivalry more and more by the minute. I liked the Charlotte victory. I also liked the match. Monster shout out BFAB. But either way, Anthony, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts on Charlotte and Tiffy and the BFAB match?
I want to start with the BFAB match. The promo that BFAB cut on the way to the ring impressed me a lot. And it showed me there's something there. And I think you can definitely push her. She would be a perfect opponent for Chelsea, I think, because you can get behind that. Like, Chelsea knows how to play that off well, and I think BFAB against her, as BFAB still, I don't want to say green because I don't know how long she's been doing it, but I think she is still relatively new in the business. So I think that would help her. The Tiffany Charlotte saga. That's going in the right direction for a simple reason that they wised up and stopped trying to do Tiffy trying to out-heel the queen. You can't. You can't out heel the quick or Tiffany cutting. So they're smartly playing her as babyface, which is I think is the right move. The fighting back and forth, I love that type of stuff. The pull aparts. I know people say, "Oh, it's overdone." I don't care. I love that type of stuff. Like it to me, it adds a layer of going. These two want to beat the living daylights out of one another, and they have to be held apart. The negative that I am going to say, and this is not just what we saw last night, but in general, I don't like when a botch happens and you sell it anyway. There was the shot of Tiffy diving off the top rope onto Charlotte and security people. She got nowhere near Charlotte, and Charlotte still took the dive and sold it. Don't do that. If it doesn't work out, then improvise and change up. Don't sell a move that you didn't get hit by. I hate when they do that. It's not the first time I've seen that done in wrestling. Don't. You know what I mean? You're not helping the appearance. We know it's predetermined. We know stuff's
What?
Don't do that. Don't sell something and expose it that badly. There's the footage online. You can see it from the camera angle.
No, 100%.
Nowhere near her. Don't sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing because I agree with you 100%, but I'm really also glad you brought up the BFAB promo.
Yes.
Because it was outstanding. But also, we
was.
have this comment over on Instagram that I really do want to address as well, Anthony, and I'm not even trying to jut away from the conversation, but it's _WWE _content. And it says, I'm Spanish and I want to know your opinion about SmackDown in Spain. And then he says, it was our first time and we were a little nervous in case we didn't measure up. And I'll say this, the crowd measured up.
Listen,
absolutely.
I do mean this in all seriousness. That was one of the hottest crowds. A wrestling crowd can make or break a show. If the show is mediocre, it appears better because it's a hot crowd. If it's a really good show, it becomes legendary. That kind of happened with the Puerto Rico backlash. It's still talked about to this day. I do mean this, and I'm not saying this because you're asking. It was one of the hottest crowds I've seen for SmackDown in a while. So
Spain,
you guys absolutely measured up.
Over delivered. We've got Fernando Zayas here in the comments with the crowd was fire last night.
Just on that as well. Just on that quickly, because I think it's fair to address this, and I think sometimes, I mean, I'm from Europe. I was part of the crazy Money in the Bank crowd, the crowd the night before. I was telling Roman to stand up and sit down if we hate him. All this, calling him names that I won't repeat on here.
Right.
I think we did a good job of that. In terms of on SmackDown, you've still got to give them time to speak. I think there has been times where in the past, I'm not going to start calling out countries or cities, that you be rowdy, but when you've got to give them that time to speak, because the show does still need to happen, that you can't overrun it.
You're still,
and I think last night they found that perfect balance. I think they were quiet, let them speak, but whenever it was time to erupt, and whenever they were given that opportunity to be loud, and I thought it was possibly the best part of the show. I would even say, and throwing people like Jimmy Uso off to say US tag titles, throwing Solo off, that was the crowd that was doing that. It was that energy. And that's a commendable thing to experience people like that.
It's very cool. And for like our friend over here on Instagram mentioned, it's a first time event in Spain. This was an educated crowd. They knew what the deal was, and they knew when to cheer, and were excited in the right ways. The noise came through.
They should have got Roman. They should have got Roman. I felt so bad that they didn't get Roman.
Heyman shouts out to Spain 100%, and then great crowd for SD. They were the highlight of the show. I agree.
Heyman is somebody that knows how to handle crowds. Like there was that great moment where he mentioned, that they weren't getting Roman, and that it was going to be next week. And the crowd booed, but he knew what to say. He goes, just buy a flight. No one's going to stop you from buying. Like, it was just
Right.
this line. What was the line? No, Mussolini's not going to stop you at the border.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is even funnier. Mussolini's Italian.
no,
Like-
but they're in Italy next week.
They're in
That's what
Italy
he's
next
talking
week,
No,
about.
so
in
he's saying they're
Italy,
not gonna
I know
stop it.
then,
Yeah.
but it's just like even then though that Spanish crowd in Barcelona.
That felt a little bit to me. That left a little bit of a sour taste.
Same.
Because, like,
That's what I was gonna say. I'm
a
like,
flight- a
Anthony, I
flight-
get
a
where you're
flight
coming
isn't
from.
that
Somewhere.
expensive.
No,
A
but
flight,
as far
another ticket is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
where
yeah.
I was
Right.
like, steady on it. You can probably get a cheap flight, but you can't get a cheap SmackDown ticket.
correct.
So
No.
that's where I was like, come on now, Paul.
The
And I just
SmackDown
felt a
ticket
bit
may be
bad
more
for
than the
them.
flight.
I felt a bit for anybody that plays 2K, you can do like advertising promos that kind of you lose the crowd a bit. You can lose a few crowd points, but you make a bit of money. And it really felt that somebody had sent Paul Heyman out to do an advertising 2K promo.
On the
Lost
GM
the crowd
mode.
a bit. Yeah, on the GM mode. Yeah, lost
I mean,
the crowd a
GM
bit, but
mode's
made a
my
bit of
favorite
money.
mode. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So I get it. I love that. But yeah, no, it did very much feel like that. But Jordy, also, I do want to get your thoughts on our initial segment here when it comes to the Charlotte Tiffy stuff, the BFAB match, everything about it. Anthony did a great job breaking down BFAB's initial promo and everything that we saw in the match. But what were your thoughts on the whole situation? Let's talk about it.
I liked it. I think we are heading in the right direction. I think it was needed. And going off something that Anthony said, it's regarding the psychology of things. Something that I think maybe if you get too sucked in, you don't tend to think about the psychology of how you're booking things. Bringing Tiffy out last night because BFAB, who was very over with that crowd. Well, not at the start, she didn't get a huge pop, but I think she earned her way to getting the crowd behind her. Charlotte had her trapped. Tiffy came to save her. That right there is the pivot that Anthony is talking about that we needed to make Tiffany be more of the good guy, more of the face in this scenario, because you're absolutely right. You can't out-heel the heel that is Charlotte Flair. Well, Tiffy certainly can. I don't think there's that many women out there that probably can, because I think whether we like it or not, there is some people that genuinely dislike Charlotte. They respect her, but they're just not a big Charlotte fan. She almost has a Brock Lesnar like aura in the sense it's like undeniable, but it's like anytime Charlotte comes, it's like chances are she's going to steamroll whoever's in her way. And I hope that isn't the case for Tiffy, but the pivot is needed to her being a face. I think from the moment she broke away from Nia, we needed that to really get behind her, and she kind of came out to the crowd and said, "Oh, this was always the plan. You were all idiots that you didn't see it." And it's like, whoa, hang on. We're supposed to not like Nia in this situation. We're supposed to like you. Don't you be calling us idiots. So it's definitely needed. The spot was cool at the end. I liked that they brought him back out when the Miz was talking. Like you said, it can be overdone, this whole kind of brawl out thing, but that's not something you often see that much, where you've got a situation where like this segment had finished, there was an ad break, I think, and then they came back out and interrupted the Miz because they were still fighting. So I've been excited for the match since it was announced. I just want to care more about the story behind it, and we've still got a fair bit left. So if we carry on at this momentum, I think by the time we get to Mania, I'll be looking forward to it from a storyline perspective as well as an in-ring perspective.
I love that, and I'm 100% with you. I mean, this is a situation where you have a lot of stars involved now, especially. And it feels like it's in its groove, for lack of a better way to put it, Jordy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've found the groove. Emperor's New Groove, monster shout out. Love that film. But just saying, right? We found the groove here when it comes to Tiffy and Charlotte, and it makes sense. The lines in the sand have been drawn. Shout out Batista's entrance music, right? Line in the sand. No, that's not even line. That's Evolution. Sorry. Line in the sand, right? But like the line in the sand has been drawn. Either way. Sorry. Yeah, I was looking for a good reference there. We'll see about that one next time. I'll fill that up again. But with that, let's move on to a topic that I really, really am excited to talk about. And it's one that I think everything about this is great. I think Randy Orton is awesome. I think Randy Orton wrestling Carmelo Hayes is awesome. I think Randy Orton KO should be a bloodbath. But if this isn't the most predictable return, peep the graphic, I don't know what is. I don't know who didn't see this coming, but if you didn't, you probably weren't watching. Is kind of the scoop. That's my only issue with it, and I'm not trying to over the top complain. But this was a hanging curveball. And I don't know if it was knocked out of the park. It was like a double in the gap. Not to use baseball terms because I'm just wearing a Bo Jackson jersey, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I want Randy Orton and KO to feel like it's as big of a deal as possible. And this almost seems too early. This almost seems too early with as much time as we have. Would you agree with that, Anthony, or what were your thoughts on it?
I mean, like Bo knows, so does KO know. So here's the thing with this. And I want to start with Mello first off, and I may get some heat for this. His booking on the main roster as a whole, and I think as a whole, since he lost the NXT championship, he's not him anymore. I don't get the aura of him being him in the sense of a major star. To me, it very much, he's talented, but he's booked like a jobber. In all seriousness, going into this, you knew Orton was going to beat him. This was not there's a chance. There's a small chance. No, there's not. So I don't know what you do with Mello. Clearly SmackDown's not working out for him. So if they move him to Raw, or maybe bring him over to TNA for a little while to try to rebuild himself. I don't know what you do with him. Orton looks great, which is exactly what you want going into Mania. I think it was a brilliant move that Orton was going to go for the punt and KO prevented it. I think that's smart because it's dragging it out. People want to see the punt. They've been denied the punt. He tried to do it on KO. People stepped in the way, prevented it. He tried to do it here, got prevented again. So I think that's a WrestleMania moment. I think that's what they're going for with this. If there's any two guys that could drag this thing out, because again, we are 30-something days away from Mania at this point. So 34. I don't know if this match is going to be on night 1 or night 2, so maybe 35. But just as a whole, it's going to be an interesting match. And these are two people that legitimately do like each other. And I've always found that the people that are closest in wrestling, people that are, almost like brothers in the business, they bring out the best in one another, especially when they're feuding. They're able to get the best matches out of each other. They're motivated just a bit more to go the extra mile. And on top of that, it's Mania. So I think there's a huge potential for KO and Randy to steal the show. I think one of the best lines, I think Seth was talking about his WrestleMania match with Randy. And I think the term was, they were trying to figure out if Randy would have been able to do what he ultimately ended up doing, which was the, stomp into the RKO.
Yeah.
Randy does not take bumps unless it's a match. And that's literally what Seth said. He goes, Randy doesn't take bumps unless it's a show where he's getting paid. So I'm very
bless him for it. It's brilliant.
I mean, listen, he has enough injuries, enough wear and tear. It's understandable why he'd be hesitant with that. But because KO is going to probably try to go for the apron power bomb. Like, especially Randy's history with a back, it would make sense for the KO character to at least attempt to go for it, whether or not he actually goes for it. But it's a heated feud. It's 100%. It's one of the best Mania builds.
And I'll start
for this.
I'll start really quick with like Fernando Zayas with Carmelo put on an excellent performance versus Randy. He has the booking is the brutal part.
Yes.
How can you be him if you lose every time?
To
It keeps
me,
missing.
to me, Mello with that is the same thing with Solo.
Yes.
It's the same thing with Solo. Solo has one of the worst win-loss records, yet he kept getting world title shots. Like
Right.
it doesn't make sense. Like
And
One of the best theme songs.
Yeah.
We've also got Shawn Ellis with Randy Orton as a king in WWE. Kevin Owens and Carmelo Hayes are still desperate for attention, especially Carmelo Hayes needs more time to evolve. Currently, he's out of place and he sucks. I wouldn't say he sucks. I would not agree with that. I especially with Kevin Owens when it comes to that too.
Yeah.
Fernando Zayas with when Randy finally punts KO, it's going to get an enormous pop. Okay.
That is 100% correct.
That we need. Absolutely. He punts KO at Mania. It's going to be an enormous pop. That is the moment we are building to, and that's the moment that we need.
Yep.
But speaking of moments we need, really quickly, let's keep it rolling on today's show. Let me talk to you about the Etsy app. If you haven't checked this out, no matter what kind of phone you have, as long as it has an app store on it, whether it's the Google Play Store or the regular app store, you can download this one. And if you want to argue with me about Cody Rhodes or John Cena or whatever I said that bothered you so much, you need to download this one. Because not only that, you can create your own profile, join the live streams, head to the upcoming stream section. And here's the best part. I'll be on there tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific. That's whatever it is. I think it's 1 o'clock in the East. And then it's like 5 o'clock UK or 4, something like that. You can just come in and argue with me about whatever you like, whatever bothers you. It's going to be so good. It's me. We've got takes. We've got Big Ant. We've got all kinds of people. It's going to be a good time. Head over to that upcoming stream section, download the app on either app store, no matter what kind of phone you got, and check it out. But let's get into our third segment of this afternoon, my friends, because this is one I've wanted to talk about. What do you want to talk about? Cody likes to ask. This is the answer. Gunther versus Axiom. A good friend of ours, Kobe Galanzowski, who I love to rib about the fact that NXT UK no longer exists. This is an NXT UK throwback. It was a kid, arguably the worst wrestling name of all time, on arguably the most talented wrestler on the roster the entire time he was in NXT UK. Axiom's a new thing. We got that over here in regular NXT. This match was off the charts. This was old school Gunther. This was a slugfest. Ken Griffey Jr. 97. Slugfest. Midway video games. It was absolutely off the charts. You have an unbelievable grappler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Axiom, taking on the biggest, baddest dude in the yard at this stage in Gunther, in Spain, no less. And guess where Axiom's from? Spain. He's Spanish. It makes it even better. They delivered as far as I'm concerned, but Jordy, I got to get your thoughts on it. Did it land for you the way it landed for me? Because I don't think there was anything more delightful on last night's show than this in particular.
Yeah, no, it was probably the highlight of the show for me as well. I think Gunther did a great job as well in terms of walking out there and shouting Hala Madrid, because that is like, if you walk down the street in Barcelona and start shouting that, it won't be long until somebody's punching you in the face. I guarantee it. Like, the hatred between Madrid and Barcelona football clubs is one of the greatest in history of football. So as soon as he did that, I was like, oh, wow, right, okay. As if the crowd don't like you anyway, then obviously the match itself, it was a perfect opportunity and a perfect showing. I think they've been guilty of doing this in a somewhat, I don't know how to say it, in a not negative way, but just throwing people a bone when you go to the country that they're from. without it making sense. But for some reason, this didn't feel like that last night. Like, I think about Butch at the time when he was in the Money in the Bank match in England, and it was like, yeah, cool and stuff, but like, we know he's not going to win. You're just doing it because he's from here. But last night, I don't know, maybe because it was a bit of a surprise pop, because the match itself was so good, because it was a throwback, whatever it was, it made me want to see more of that. And I know Ben Allison has mentioned it on his Allison analysis, the thought to carry on this through the European tour and keep calling someone out from a home country. I really do like the idea of that for this particular tour. The only thing that I just wonder is, like, are we going to get any more build to the Jay and Gunther thing, or has that been put on the back burner a little bit? That's my only negative in this. But in terms of what it did for Axiom, and to be honest, Gunther as well, I think it did a lot for Gunther. I don't think we've seen him do that for a while, kind of put the fear back into people, showing what he is capable of. So it was a win for everyone aside from Jay, I would say.
Okay, this is something that I really want to sort of unpack here, because I really like what you said there, especially the insight you had about the Madrid thing. I was thrown by that as well, because I do know about the Madrid-Barcelona rivalry outside of just football. That's not just a soccer rivalry, right? Even as an American, I'm aware of that. And that was an aggressive play for trying to be the Spanish hometown babyface.
Yeah.
Given what we had, and I know you were like, I don't want to say this like it's negative, but it did feel a bit like, wait a minute. And then once you heard what he really like, right? Like, it's almost like the guy that's from Pennsylvania and he's really from Philly. Anthony could relate to this one, but you booked him in Pittsburgh. Like, he's the hometown guy. Like, it's not the same.
Listen, it's one of the things, and Clark, you'll appreciate this, and you know this, is when you're talking about the Philly thing, is one of the things that annoys people from Philly, legitimately from Philly, are when people from Delaware County or Delco claim Philly, because it's really not. But I want to pick up what Jordy said about if they're going to continue on. If they're going to continue on this Gunther tour of beating local people, I feel like you can kind of do that with Gunther. It kind of works. They have enough international talent. Like, next week they're in Italy. I don't know. Maybe bring out Tony D. I don't know. But you could play it as it's a confidence boost to Gunther, because that's been the question, that Gunther kind of lost his spark and that Jay has all the momentum. That's how you counteract it, where he's boosting his own ego by beating these people.
I'm with that, but I mean, even then, just the shock of, and like you kind of mentioned, Jordy, right? Like, it felt, I don't want to say telegraphed, but right, like, did this really do anything for Axiom outside of maybe Spain? I don't know.
I think there might be a lot, especially in this new Netflix era, there might be a lot of people that watch SmackDown but don't watch NXT. So there might be a good number of people that are like, oh, who's this guy? And I think it was one of them rare occasions where you can take a loss and still come out looking good. That's what I think it did kind of benefit both of them, really. And to what you guys said, like, if it's Gunther getting his confidence back, then yeah, because I remember IC champion Gunther would just come out on a random episode of Raw and put the belt on the line. And just go, I'll wherever.
Fighting champion.
Yeah, yes. You name it, wherever, don't care where it is, let's fight. You're not going to beat me. And that's what I want from Gunther.
He would beat him up and be mean. That was the best part of the character.
Yeah. It feels like they're doing the same character but less threatening. And it's like, if you're going to do it, like, make it more threatening. Like, he's a bigger.
It's a bigger title. Thank you, Jordy. That is the quote of the day. Sincerely.
If the argument they're trying to make is that Dominic Gunther, the 666-day Intercontinental Champion, if his confidence was rocked by Sammy beating him and he's still sort of in the back of his mind, that's still, that seed of doubt is still there. If that's what they're trying to plant, okay, that's a deep story, but I think you can run with if that's the direction you want to go, because Jay kind of has that momentum, that underdog that Sammy had last year. So yeah, you can kind of run with that if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got Fernando Zayas in the comments here with Gunther looks better as IC champion. Sean Ellis would like to see Axiom versus Penta. The younger luchador is putting on a great match to honor Rey Mysterio. I love that, but Axiom's from Spain. He's not even a luchador. The guy's a world-class grappler.
He's just wearing a mask.
Completely different. He's happened to be wearing a mask, but he's from Spain and he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's closer to Ilya Tapuria than he is Rey Mysterio Jr. Right? If you really think about it, and I mean that, like, I don't say stuff like that lightly. Ilya Tapuria is the 145-pound UFC champion, and like, he's a black belt from Spain the same way. Like, the guy is a world-class submission artist and a freak athlete. So he gets confused as if he's a luchador because now he's behind a mask. He's been saddled with A-Kid, basically the worst name ever.
Then that was his choice.
Right.
That was not WWE.
Yeah, then they gave him a mask and made him a math teacher. So like the second worst gig ever. And he's just that athletically talented and that good. And I'm a huge fan of Axiom in general. But one more from Sean Ellis here. He said maybe a Luchador International Invitational Tournament in WWE or NXT. What do you guys think? Okay.
Should win it.
If it happens, it would probably be NXT would be the one to do it. If a brand was doing it, or they might do it like they did the Cruiserweight Classic. It was a separate, it was his own thing. It had independent talent. The partnership with TNA could help. Whether they
I also think for it to be taken seriously, you got to do a weight class deal. Under 200.
It has to be the Cruiserweight Classic, essentially. Just
right.
A lucha, or they would probably do Cruiserweight Classic again before they would do a luchador,
just to showcase the style.
Yeah.
That to me is like, I don't know.
I do agree with Jordy that there is a portion of the audience. I think the old adage is WWE fans only watch Raw and SmackDown. Wrestling fans watch everything else, including NXT, because they're not as diehard for that type of stuff. So I agree with Jordy that people probably don't. Not everybody knows who actually.
Absolutely. Was. Let's move on though to our main event of the evening, the title change I promised we'd talked about. So I love the Profits more than anything, and I thought they were due to win a title in this calendar year, almost no matter what. I'm not sure about now, because I think back 2 years ago and we were raining red cups from the ceiling and they were in the throwaway match on WrestleMania 39. They were one of the biggest pops of night one by miles. Everybody loved them. We never capitalized. We never figured that out. I don't get it. Right this second, not so much, but they are that good. We know they're that good. We know how good the Profits are. They pick up the tag gold once again. And I love this. It's a different angle. It's a different deal. But I don't even feel like they're all the way there. Like, personally, as a fan, I'm not all the way over wanting to root for the Profits. I didn't have a problem with them winning last night. And that's the problem that I have. And that's why, Jordy, I got to ask you, did you have the same issue? Like, I didn't have a problem with them winning. I was excited about it.
Yeah, I am because it's a relief in a sense, because for like the people behind the wrestlers, because I know how hard they work. I know how much they've wanted this for so long. And like you say, the huge pop at Mania 39, the trouble was tag belts were unified and being fought for in the main event of night one of that situation. Usos versus Sammy and KO, and as good as the Street Profits were ever going to be, they weren't going to top the bloodline story that had been going on, especially what had been intertwined with Sammy and KO and how they'd found the way back to being friends again. And it was just unfortunate timing. I just wonder if it was a big enough moment for them. And the avenue I'm going down here is, it wouldn't surprise me that them titles end up in Pretty Deadly's hands before we get to WrestleMania. And we're going to absolute hot potato them. So before Mania, they'll have been with Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, Pretty Deadly, and the Street Profits. All four of them teams will have held the titles in the past, however, 2-3 months, and they'll end up in a Mania match, like a ladder match together. Because Pretty Deadly are number one contenders for the titles, are they not?
They are.
I'm sure,
And,
yeah.
and that's the interesting part. That's I think you're spot on.
And we're heading to London as well. That's the other thing I was
Yes.
going to say. We're heading to the UK. I think they might give them that moment in the UK, and then we'll go into Mania, and the Profits will get that moment again. I hope by winning that Mania match in a 4-way match. But I think that it could be the Motor City Machine Guns that get it. I just.
And even to your point, we have Fernando Zayas here with this title change should have happened at Mania instead of wasting it on a random SmackDown. Yeah. And here's the problem is the Profits are heels, but I don't think we want them to be.
I don't know. They've been in
want
muddy water
to root for them.
Ashley stuff, haven't they?
I'm telling you right now, if they go to Vegas, Jordy, and drop the cups,
he'll go off
against. I mean, dude, the place will be ballistic.
Yeah,
it's that's the hard part for me is I get sometimes turning something that's stale. I cannot figure out the Street Profit situation because they were never stale. Like we're in a spot now where we've got the Profits playing a heel role that maybe they should have played alongside the Hurt Business.
I think they were a bit
syndicate.
I was about to say I think they did get a bit stale with the Lashley stuff, and I don't think it was fair on them. I think Lashley was going through. He obviously wasn't happy or whatever, or was deciding whether he was going to renew. And I think the Street Profits kind of were collateral damage in that situation because 100%. Whatever was planned for them got binned because Bobby went. So it's unfortunate. And since then, I don't know whether we're supposed to cheer or boo them. I do have to agree with you there.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that really wanted to root against the Profits ever, right? They're hard to root against. They're genuinely come across as baby faces even when they're trying to be heels. And I know there are good people that are capable of playing bad characters, but at the same time there's something special when it comes to the Profits because people love them,
especially Tez.
Both actually, though. I think even Dawkins has this groundswell of support. The way that he's handled the last couple of years, improving in the ring, getting in better shape, being incredible on the microphone. I think people are attached to the team as a whole. And it's tough because there is always the thing floating out there. Like, Tez could probably be the world champ, right? That does float amongst the right? That is floating around all the time. We've got a bunch of comments here I want to see really quick. Sean Ellis with the Street Profits win the title. Is it the end of DIY and the beginning again of a rivalry of Ciampa versus Gargano on NXT? I really hope not. I don't think there's space on NXT for that. Pretty Deadly, the new M&M. I actually love that. I think so, slightly differently, but I actually dig that one. Absolutely, Sean. And then, Mercury and Morrison, he's saying like, yes. Yeah, I completely dig that. I think it's an apt comparison, 100%. But obviously, Anthony, I got to get your thoughts on all of this. Profits win the gold, everything going down here, tag belts. I have probably complained more about the tag division than anybody on WR on this very program. Over the last few years, nobody has done anything more than just yelling at the screen like build a division and all this stuff. And at least we have a nice team at the top. Is this the time we finally figure out the tag division? And what were your thoughts on all of it?
Okay, a number of things that you guys talked about that I want to touch on. I do think Montez, if you want to use the analogy, he probably is the Shawn Michaels of the Street Profits. And the thing is, and I think a lot of people forget, then that means Dawkins is the Jannetty. Jannetty was really good on his own right. Jannetty fell because of his own demons. Jannetty was a solid hand regardless when he was on. But I've said multiple times on here, I think, you have SmackDown arguably, in my opinion, has the best tag division in all of wrestling. Every other tag division really is not good right now. Really isn't. SmackDown has the Profits. They have Pretty Deadly. They have DIY. They have Motor City. They have Los Garza. They have a number of teams they can kind of run with. One of the things that I had said before, I thought that they were going to probably go ladder match at Mania. It is the 25th anniversary of the original triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 2000. So I think that's a possibility, whether it's a four-way or not. Going into this, when you started the segment, my initial thought was, well, I think it was a mistake to drop the tag titles there. I would have done it at Mania. But as you were talking and you read the comment, it dawned on me it was not a wasted SmackDown title change. You have to keep in mind that they have not been to Spain in 6 years. It is their first SmackDown. You want to give them a title change. You want to give them something memorable. So I had no problem with the Street Profits winning it, and I think you could do that through the European tour, like Jordy mentioned. You can give the titles to Pretty Deadly. Maybe DIY interferes or something. I think ultimately you're probably going to get a four-way, potentially a ladder match. I'm hoping for a ladder match, and that may just be me being selfish because I'm going to be there. But I think you could build a tag division with having competitive teams fighting for this title, all within that run. The problem is Raw has nothing tag division wise, but SmackDown's got it. And you strike while the iron's hot right now.
Can I just make one point very clear? And if Johnny if Johnny Gargano is, I'll look directly at the camera. Johnny Gargano, BTTITW needs to stop. It's more syllables than saying best tag team in the world. Mm-hmm. It's actually longer to say than best tag team in the world because that W is two syllables on the end. Otherwise, every word is one syllable. Just say
you gotta go Southern accent and hit W.
We cannot. We can maybe that, but we can't be going around saying that is why we are the BTTITW. It's too many letters. Just stop. And because it's DIY, so then he says DIY is the BTTITW. Enough, my friend. We're not playing Scrabble. You know what I mean?
Listen, you
acronyms are acronyms. This isn't a good one.
You can go the Benjamin and Haas route, where they were the WGTT, the world's greatest tag team. That's a lot less letters.
That's fine.
And you at least own it.
Think of, what's the hip hop song? Where is it? BTT.
I don't
know that it's me.
Every time.
Listen, that's the show. That's the show you do with Sean. Sean would be able to help you out.
Who's telling him this is a good idea? Who's saying, "Oh, good one, bro"? Someone needs to tell him it's too many letters, Johnny. Just say best tag team in the world.
I think he's doing it to agitate you.
Then he's doing a good job.
Now, by the way, if we end up with, and this is something that I had a thought about while everybody was talking, and I was like, what?
He wasn't paying attention.
I was, because I was listening, and I was like, what would be the coolest thing ever? Is how do we get the Profits back to being the beloved Profits that we had? Who were that over? And here's what I'm thinking is, so if we have this victory, hypothetically, by Pretty Deadly along the way on the European tour, then all of a sudden, maybe you use somebody like an R-Truth who's reeling off the Cena thing. And he just asked the Profits to be themselves. And then we get the cup drop.
They tell them to bring the smoke.
Yes. We get the smoke. And we just get the cup drop. It could be that simple, but I would be all over that. If this is because I truly don't believe that I can get myself convinced mentally that the Street Profits are heels.
I think they're the most.
I like those two dudes too much.
Honestly,
they've done too many good things, and they seem like too good of people for me to believe that they are hateable.
Honestly, I think you're on to something. Truth could definitely be the Jiminy Cricket of WWE to try to be the moral compass.
During the Cena thing, he's crashed out.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't be like John.
It's up to him now.
You want the
on
smoke.
Be
Andrew.
like my childhood hero.
You
John
want
Cena.
the smoke. My childhood hero let me down. Don't you let me down too.
Never give
Yes.
up. He can just go around preaching old
Yes.
school Cena to everyone now.
It'd be iconic. I will say though, guys, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. I appreciate everyone that tuned in. I do appreciate my co-hosts more. On behalf of me, Jordy, and Anthony, thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. That's of course now 1:00 over on the West Coast, 4:00 on the East Coast,
Mhm.
and then it's still 8:00
I don't
in
know
the
what time
UK.
it is
Jordy,
in
do
the
you
UK,
know?
man. I don't. I
Well,
operate
it's
on the
10
EST.
a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. Monster shout out aloha, and have a good one. Happy Saturday. Enjoy. If you haven't watched Maple Leaf Pro,
Night-
check that
night
out.
twos tonight.
You'll enjoy it. It's night 2.
Oh, Canada.
Happy Saturday. Oh, Canada.
Uh,